Yeah, yeah. Hi, good morning. Still good morning? No, good afternoon. Hi. So, thank you for having me here. It's not every day I get to address a group of good techies. So, I did manage to lose the jacket, but I still ended up keeping the shirt, not on a t-shirt today. I hope to share a little bit of what we are seeing in the world of AI for enterprise. I hope to share a few consultant jokes, and success will be if I can take a few new ones back with me. And maybe I should start with a little bit about myself and the team I represent, and from there we can speak more. I believe I have about half an hour. I must be eating into another speaker's time, so sorry in advance. And I will try to speak for about half of that time, but leave a lot of time for conversation. I'm expecting a lot of questions, or I would love it if there are questions and perspectives that we can talk about. So I'm Ankur. By training, actually my background is in computer science and AI. That was my first master's, and I did a lot of research work there. And as life happens, I also ended up doing an MBA. That's a story for some evening over drinks. But then I have this fun job where I basically get to apply AI for enterprises. I've been doing this work for about 10 years now. Has anybody heard of Quantum Black? Thank you. So Quantum Black was a startup from Europe. They used to do AI-based race strategy optimization for F1 teams in real time. That was what they did, okay? And this is about a dozen years ago when we felt that AI has something to offer to enterprises at large, not just banking, but more broadly. And then we started working with QB, Quantum Black. And then in 2015, about 10 years ago, we acquired Quantum Black. It was about 28 people at that time. Today, that team is about 3,000 people, basically data scientists, data engineers, MLOps folks, architects, not consultants, not MBAs. And they build these applications for ourselves, but basically for our enterprise clients. We work with a range of technologies. There's a big center in India, about 500 of them sit in India. I have the absolute sheer pleasure and privilege of leading that team. So that's what I do, and that perspective I'm going to share with you today is coming from the work we do for our clients globally. Right? So that's what we are here to talk about. I am promised the clicker shall work. Okay. This is a very interesting audience to talk to. You all are building these applications. You are talking to your clients who are using these applications or these technologies. And you're probably also maintaining some of this. But generative AI especially is also useful to you in your own work in how you deliver. So there's a lot to cover. I absolutely am sure I will not be able to cover this even if you double the amount of time. So I will be a little selective in what I pick up. But I would love if you have questions or thoughts right now or during the conversation, just tell me what you'd like to hear about and we'll talk more of that. Normally I like to cover how looking ahead, not what's just happening now, but what does it tell us about what's going to happen both in enterprise adoption, therefore the growth for you, but also productivity, which is more about how you can do this. So let's see. This is meant to be a fun quiz. I don't know if there are awards for it, but yeah? Okay. So let's see. Percentage of enterprises that report that their organizations are regularly using generative AI today. This is a sample. This is not on the flight, Ankur Puri sits down and creates a quiz. This is a survey of about 1,000 organizations across 10 sectors and all major geographies. So this is representative of what's happening in the world. We do this every year. Okay, we've been doing this for about 10 years now. So these are results from last year, end of last year. Okay, so what percentage are regularly using generative AI? Any guess? One guess? 50? 100%. Okay. Officially, it is 65. Unofficially, I believe it is 100%. Second question. This is now the number of organizations that are regularly, this is as in what, how much, this is the growth. How is this compared to what the number was a year ago when generative AI was not yet as mature? Any guess? 10, 20%, going 1, going 2, 2x. I think this, there's a chart I don't have today, which basically shows that adoption had been flat for about 8 or 9 years. But after 23, it just spiked up, okay? Okay, this is an important one. Digital budgets getting reallocated. What share of organizations are reallocating budgets from conventional IT towards AI related things? More than 10%, which at the scale of IT globally, the share, this is also the share of budget that's getting reallocated. It's quite big. Productivity potential across pilots. This is an interesting topic, so I think half the chocolates have to come here. But yes, so effort reduction across pilots. This I'm sure many of you have achieved. So the average we get is 25 to 30 in our poll. Okay, however, now this is the fun one, and this is why it's on the other side of the chart. At scale deployment, we're moving away from now pilot. Now we're talking about scale, okay? So what's the scope of impact here now? 10 to 12, yeah? So the 30% in the best organizations who are able to scale it is 10%. What is missing here is actually that if there are 100 organizations here, about 7 organizations reach that scale. So less than 10% scale it, and what you achieve is maybe a third of what you started realizing. Okay. This is now everyone who deals with commercial here. This is for you all with lots of love. What's happening on the expectation of pricing of contracts? Yeah, sorry. Can someone help? Where is the laptop? Sorry, I did not switch off. Can you switch off the notifications? Thank you. Sorry. So what we are seeing is that with all the hype around this, all the news around this, enterprise customers have said, oh, okay, so you will get the 25-30%. So let us put that into the contract prices. So there is a double whammy between that and the 10 to 12%. Yeah. And that's the reality for everyone in services, no matter what mix of business lines you have. So at least no surprises here, it seems, for at least the front benches. Yeah. But this is the big picture if you were to look ahead on things that technology can permit, legal and structural things once they get solved. We believe that there's a 20% growth in top line that is possible for the sector of services. There is 30% improvement in productivity that's possible, 40% in SG&A, 80% greater satisfaction amongst developer productivity. I don't know if that resonates with you or not, whether you like using the tools or not. It depends on, I guess, what the expectation from the enterprise is. But without any of those constraints, my experience is people enjoy using these tools when they're doing their work. I'm gonna spend a few minutes on growth opportunities, a few minutes on productivity, and then I hope we can do discussion. And there's lots, as a good consultant, I have lots of slides. So I can go into any of them, but that's not the intent of today, yeah? So this is a little bit of a numbers chart. I'm not the best person to talk about Databricks or SAP, but I can talk about numbers of the industry, yeah? So let me talk about that a little bit. So in 2023, the total tech services industry, which you are a part of, specialized player, amazing player performance, but the industry-wise, we are looking at about 1250 billion. This is what is in 23. Now, in 5-year growth that was expected, if nothing happened on the generative AI side, the pre-Gen AI excitement, or there was just secular growth expected to about, let's say, 1500. Generative AI has changed a lot of interesting things. First is, and this is what I want to focus more on for you, you are very well poised for this, which is new things that are coming up because of generative AI. Existing services, especially around data engineering and all that, see a lot of tailwinds. but also new things that are coming up that were not there earlier, right? A lot more demand, for example, for unstructured data becoming features into other models, or work with unstructured data for things like knowledge assistance. This never existed earlier. So this is a big bucket. There is productivity benefit, which your clients have decided basically means lesser revenue for the system, because you can get it done with lesser effort. There's also some interesting shift away in the legacy maintenance work, because with legacy modernization, legacy maintenance demand will go down. By the way, some of this shows up here as new work in terms of legacy modernization. Yeah? So interestingly, there is still growth in the market in the end. So compared to 1500 as a base, 1600 as a base, there's still growth in the market. But what's important for someone like you is, I think you're very well poised to be here compared to several of the other services players who are in both sides of the bucket. So that's the first message. Congratulations for where you're playing, which we believe is a big part of success. You're playing in the right place in the market right now. Also, one thing, the title of the slide, I'm also participating in the marketing hype, GenAI. Then Arun and Som were like, yeah, come and talk about GenAI. But let me tell you my real belief. My real belief is generative AI is actually about a third of the value. For 10 years as I've done my work, most of this work was on what I'm now having to call traditional AI. This is what was called machine learning. This is what correctly would be sort of non-linear statistics. This is the stuff that's still the workhorse. This is still the one that's delivering value. But what's very interesting is when you use the two together. Those are really powerful examples, and we have not yet seen too many of those in the market, but the ones we have seen work beautifully, including things like using generative AI to extract features that can, from unstructured data, that can go into machine learning models, and we've seen significant improvement, for example, in personalization engines because of that, right? But it's not a very commonly used factor right now. The point is that let's not be purists about generative AI. Let's think about value for clients, and whatever's needed, we do. This is on the web. I'm happy to send you guys a link, okay? What we did, we have one part of McKinsey, just like Quantum Black is a part of McKinsey, we also have something called the McKinsey Global Institute. It's like a group of economists who look at big picture macroeconomic things. One of the things we did together was to say, how does this total number, total value we estimate on the last page, I forgot to talk about it, is about 20 trillion. Okay, quiz. What is India's GDP size? Total economy size. Okay. Chocolates, the box of chocolates. So the total size is about 5 times India's economy. Just to put things in perspective. Total value from AI in the global economy is 5 times India's economy. Right? It's work that all of you have to do to get a fair, disproportionate, more than fair share of the 20 trillion. That's what India needs. Okay? India's economy is less than 4% of global economy. It will be unfair if we settle for 4% of this pie. Yeah, and that's where I think all of you are the torch bearers. We have to get disproportionate share of the 20 trillion. Yeah. Now this is breaking that down by global industry and function. The only thing I want you to take away right now, you can read more about it later, is darker the blue, greater the share, simple, is basically sales marketing, software engineering, and to some extent, then the level 1 is marketing and sales and software engineering. For your clients, that's where all the value lies. Those two is half of the value. Don't think of it just as industry, right? By the way, if you operate in multiple industries, that means you get those two accelerators right. You're actually very well poised for multiple industries. Machine learning was not distributed like this. Yeah. Uh, when we start doing this work, we first like to have the medicine ourselves, right? So a little bit of credibility in going and talking to clients comes from doing things ourselves. Some of you may have read about Lilly on TechCrunch and Wired. So Lilly, so if you think about McKinsey, we don't have any assets, actually very much like you. We are a people organization and all our assets are our people and our knowledge of how to do things, okay? We are about 100 years old. So for most of these 100 years, there has been a practice of codifying our knowledge. Okay, we basically write how we do our work. No, nothing, zero client information in that. It's just about our approach to do things. Okay. We took, so November 22 is when, sorry. So productivity has happened and then we do more for our clients. But also that. But it's quite cool. Given the setup, I'm not going to do a live demo because there isn't time, and I'm happy to spend some time on this. But let me tell you a little bit about what I think is possible. So November 22, 30th of November is when ChatGPT was announced. Everybody was talking about it over Christmas. In Feb, we set up a squad to say what can we do with it. So that's 23 now. In June, the first, somewhere between May, June, the first beta user group had access to this. By October of that year, every single consultant had access to this. So our journey to pilot was still about July, and it was scale. And we're talking about 30, 40,000 people using this system at scale, okay? We solved for accuracy and speed in the first phase, and then of course had to solve for cost. To give you a sense, the first set of queries for the beta group, I was part of it, costed about $1.20 per query. In a 50,000 people, that's a short way to bankruptcy, no problem at all, okay? Today, it runs at less than a tenth of a cent per query, and it's getting better. Less than a tenth of a cent per query from $1.20 per query. All of that, by the way, is software engineering, not better negotiation with the vendors of LLMs. That's software engineering, how we are managing the cache, how we are managing, understanding what people are looking for, how we process the prompts. The simple message I'm trying to say is, even if your clients are talking about, the costs, I think sitting together and saying, okay, if this creates value, we'll figure out how to bring down costs, is an important way to think about it. MAUs, given our work, we don't have heavy research work, right? We do a little bit of research, then we go try things in the field with the clients, except in strategy studies where there's more research. But 70-80% of our work is actually implementation, not strategy. MAU is at the base of 40,000 consultants. Okay, any guesses? 80%. And I think for most organizations that are not tech first, large tech companies, I think it's one of the systems that's large and heavily used. Today, by the way, it's fully equipped with agents. There are about 50 to 60 programmed agents available, but there's also a full platform for programmable agents. My favorite one is something that takes normal people's English and converts it into McKinsey jargon English. And by the way, there's also one that does it the other way around. Okay, but this is real. I'm not joking. Okay, so the other lesson from building this was we started with a very simple application, which is we process close to 200,000 documents. Okay, most of them were PowerPoints, which means unlike LaTeX, terrible structure. Okay, we had an army of people figuring out data engineering. But once you get one thing going in the organization, we were able to build so many other things on top. Okay, so think of this as platform, not use case. And in the world of generative AI, even with clients, when we are building, for example, sales assistants for banks, once you get one thing adopted well, it has massive scale opportunities. So these are not standalone applications working in isolation. These are platforms you are creating. Let me actually talk about this example. This is a public example, so I can name ING. So Have you heard about risk concerns with LLMs? Anyone? No one? No conversation about risk in LLM? Okay, fine. So this is financial services, Europe, customer facing application at scale. Okay? I don't think there are harder regulatory environments for business situations. Okay? This started with the problem of basically for them the cost of customer support was very high, and the moment they tried to move to chat beyond a certain point, the customer satisfaction dipped. So we knew about the problem for a long time. So this was started with ING, Quantum Black. Today this is rolled out to about 50% of all ING customer base. The rate limiting step is regulatory approvals for new services getting added and new customer segments getting added, not the technology. But 50% of ING is already pretty massive. Okay. What are we seeing? Roughly 20% change in deflection rate. What that means is when a call comes, it first goes to a chatbot, and some proportion of those calls used to go to humans because the customer was not satisfied. That share has come down by 20%. Okay, every call that went to a human was close to about €1 per call. This is less than 10 cents per interaction. Now think about the change in the way the business is happening. Earlier this was seen as a trade-off. If I go for customer satisfaction, my cost will go up. And this is, I have happier customers at a fraction of the cost. Yeah. This is I'm not going to show you the demo. This is a demo. I can actually show you the real application. That's not the point. You've seen and made these perhaps. The lessons for us here were on how do you actually do the pilot and set up risk processes to solve that. I think about that. How do you scale it effectively? But most importantly, just sitting back, how it changes the business model for this function from a trade-off to a win-win. To my earlier point about platform, okay, we started with information, then built in transactions, so you can actually do the transactions through the system. The next thing, this is customer support by the way. So if there is a doubt, customer support is always a cost center. Fair? The next thing we are building in is chat-based cross-sell and upsell. So the customer support is going to become a profit center. Yeah? Which again, I know as a techie you'll be like, bro, what is all this? I don't want to know all this. You tell me about the latest LCM versus LLM. But this will change the demand for things for you. And that's why I'm talking about this to you. Okay? The way we understand business at the nuts and bolts level is changing. And it's because of work people like you are doing. Okay? So I'm looking at the clock. I spent most of my time on talking about growth. Yes?
We are a consulting company as well, and everyone has, as consulting company, you have to have a knowledge, right, that you keep growing, and it has to be a repository, which is what this is. One of the challenges we have faced, you said there is no client names, no sensitive information. Can you explain the process of how you do that? That has been a big challenge for us. If you don't mind just sharing, a project ends, then what happens? How does this information get in? And whatever information you lose, does it matter to the next person who wants to leverage that? So for example, I'm assuming you don't put any financial information in that thing as well, or do you? No, so how much was the SOW? What did you charge? That is also not there. So that's what I'm saying. Do you mind sharing what do you store, what kind of information, which I know you mentioned, but the process of it as well?
Yeah, and I think I should tell you this is somewhere where being about 100 years old helps. We faced these problems when we first started to digitize our documents. Okay? In fact, we faced these problems first we started to record the documents. As a policy, as an institution, we serve competing companies, but then individuals don't serve competing companies. Yeah? Individuals don't serve competing companies, but as a company, as an organization, we serve competing companies. So we have had very established systems for knowledge codification long before LLMs.
So we had the advantage of that, but how we do it, to your point, is we completely separate the two. So there is the client documents don't become knowledge documents through remove names, redact figures. That's not the process. There is a separate process for submitting knowledge documents. It is, first of all, we created demand. In every, so we have a whole pyramid, partner, associate partner, engagement manager, associate, junior associate, etc. And at every level, your review includes your contribution to the firm knowledge in different levels. Yeah. Even now, my review includes what I give back to the firm in terms of knowledge. Then there is a separate function which acts as a censor. So we've reversed, right? I want to publish and they don't want to publish my work. Rather than the other way around, we're like, please publish, and you're like, I don't have time for it. So we change the economics of it. I'm not talking about what you do, I don't know. I'm saying what I normally see in organizations is people don't want to write and someone else is chasing.
Yep.
So we said, okay, I have to go into my review, I have to write, please accept. Unless it's like we've taken the peer reviewed system and simplified it. So there's a team that reviews it and looks for quality, and if there's any sort of element of client information that reaches there, it's just rejected, irrespective of what else you've written, right? So there's a very strong system of censorship at that level, and also lifecycle management. If I publish a document which doesn't get certain number of downloads at a year level, at a 2-year level, they just take it out. It's archived, right? So I actually have like active documents versus archived documents, and my internal directory tells you for every employee how many active and inactive documents are there. So the whole system is designed to get people to spend thought on what to publish. And that's the source of data on which it was relatively easier compared to other places to build.
See, if you've solved the problem that people are motivated to actually give you this information, huge,
yeah,
right? And then I think this is, of course, all gravy. And do you mind me asking a follow-up of that? How do you ask that document to be? Is it like a pre-formatted template that somebody has to fill up, or is this completely, you know, a deck that they already had sent to the customer, they just redact the deck manually and put it in, or is it actually now generative AI redacting automatically? What is the process of redaction as well?
So we have fairly good services for redaction. People don't have to spend their own time doing that, even before generative AI. Those services are now better with generative AI. But the point is that, so for example, if I'm the project manager and I want to submit, I need permission from the partner to submit it. And if it has client sensitive information, partner will not give permission. What I'm trying to get to is redaction is insufficient barrier.
Somebody reviews the redacted document, and manually somebody will review. It's not a robot.
No, as a partner, I have to sign off that this is devoid of client information, because the last thing I want, we have accepted that amongst clients, documents flow. People email each other, this is what they did, this, that, okay? The last thing you want is two clients looking at the document and saying, oh, I've got the same sort of information which is not okay. Of course, there's industry information which is shareable, but specific information for clients cannot be shared. So as a partner, I am putting my name on the line and I review everything before it goes for publication.
One more question. This is actually, as you said, is a challenge, right? What is the time commitment that has to be factored in for this sort of A, manually reviewing, changing stuff, and then B, reviewing and signing off on it?
So, okay, what's important there is quality versus quantity. And most, like, I think our system steers towards fewer, better documents, okay? Which is why the archiving system comes in, okay? So I would on an average publish maybe 3 in a year, and I do a lot of knowledge work, maybe 4, yeah? So actually that is not, it's not about the volume, but yeah, if it is valuable enough, then you can say I'm going to put so much, yeah.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yeah, of course, your time.
Sorry, I know everyone says. So one last question, okay? What kind of documents do you load? Is it just the sales or the initial pitches, or frankly, every document for a customer that we used or pitched gets into the repository?
Neither of those actually.
Okay, so a mix of
These are industry perspectives. These are what we call how-to guides, which are actually like, think of it as how to approach a problem, not specific information. So if you are building a smart assistant, there is an architecture which is available to everyone. This is a common architecture for smart assistants. Yeah, so it's industry perspectives, how-tos, interviews with industry experts, which are also part of industry experts, but external. I earlier showed a slide about how the industry is likely to shift. That kind of stuff is put in. Neither sales pitches. They always will have something very specific about clients and nothing from client. Often fresh and often before delivery. In fact, this comes before the sales pitch. These are crown jewels in the sales pitch.
So Ankur, I have a slightly different question. One of the hypotheses is that with the knowledge becoming available in abundance due to these systems, the expertise required to do most of the work will not be needed. Some experts, of course, will be required, but the majority of the people may not need the expertise to do the task. Now, in that context, how do you see McKinsey?
Yeah.
Because you are built on that, I understand the domain, I understand the market, I bring the expertise. How do you see McKinsey's future?
Well, I have to ask that question to Lily. But I think that what we believe what's important is whether we can, so either we have to believe industry will no longer have difficult problems that an LLM can't answer. But since people and change management is part of what the real world is, I think it will be some time before we get there. I think for us what's important is, to the same point you made earlier, is to stay ahead. Right? Can we be the first organization to scale and completely in-house application? Can we be the first to put something in banking in the hands of customer before anyone else? It's staying ahead. So that's one thing. There's no edge.
It's not a relevance question.
Yeah.
The question is your price drop or not?
Is there?
Will your price drop or not?
That I will ask Piyush and Ankit to talk to you. Clearly there's one question that's very important and I am not equipped to answer that. But I'll tell you where I think the challenge will be of things where we will have to give you a slightly more serious answer is there will be things, and let's say there's a portfolio of things we do, 100 things we do. Now there will be a part of that, I don't know, 10, 20, where it will be hard for us to command that premium. Right? And for us, it will be a challenge of finding new things where we will be able to command the premium to exit that space. And in the end, instead of 20 things, maybe we'll be left with 15, maybe. Right? But for sure, as a partner, I can say that we don't want to stay back in the places where we cannot command a premium. Yeah. So, but I do want to say there is something else to this which is useful for your customers a lot. Okay. So for example, I was recently working with someone in renewables, a global company. And one of the toughest jobs is someone who goes and fixes a windmill offshore. Okay. One of the most expensive operations they do. And in that, one of the highest costs is that person who goes there to do that. And the number of windmills is scaling much faster than the number of people with decades of experience. By the way, if you go offshore, that means if you don't take the right parts with you, you have to come back and make another helicopter trip. Okay? So a fairly expensive unit operation. Now combination of predictive, earlier we did predictive maintenance. So you knew not just which mill will have a problem, but also what might be the problem. So that reduced some of the problem. Now what we are exploring is, can you send someone with 3-year experience instead of 15 years with the right knowledge expert to fix the problem 9 out of 10 times with the same effectiveness? For those organizations, the same issue is a massive opportunity. And I'm sure many of you may have come across many variants of this. It's true for healthcare, it's true for education, it's true for expensive knowledge-based work. Some people advertise co-pilots of different types for programmers with the same argument. But yeah, I think the answer I gave you for us probably holds true for everybody. Yeah. Good. I think I went out of time long back. Maybe I'll just ask you for any questions you have. Otherwise I will.
Do you mind if
I don't mind at all.
Am I allowed to, guys? All right. No
All right, I think we can have an extended conversation during lunch. With that, can we have a round of applause for Ankur, everybody? Yeah. Sumit, can I request you to join us on stage for a minute to hand over? Can I request you to join us on stage to hand over? Basically, Ankur, whatever the session, whatever you covered in the session is captured in a very creative way. Yeah, and that's for you. There's a live scribe artist who's capturing that. Can we bring it on the screen if possible? Yeah. Can we have a round of applause for Agalya is the one who's covering this for all the sessions. A round of applause for her. Jayant, can we bring that up? And that's on the screen as well for everybody.